Welcome, friends. LostScarf here, and it's time for a vlog. We're just gonna get into it. I don't have anything funny to say. Today, we're just gonna jump into a topic. Because the channel it's where it is right now, and so there's nothing really update to talk about. I want to talk about the ways to the top. And a new thing came up that I just realized, like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get what it is. And so let's talk about this. I want to talk about the ways to the top. And they are to be talented or skilled. There's a difference there. This is why I don't say things are talented too much these days, because I finally realized the difference. Talent means natural talent. The talent means it's something that you just have. Whereas skill is something you gain through working towards it. So when you call an artist talented, sometimes that artist might take it insulting, because the idea is that they just naturally have it. Well, as you know, if you follow enough artists, they will slap you silly with, it's not talent, it's skill, because they spent a decade or so perfecting their skills, and they're still improving. They're spending years just getting better and better at drawing. You see this all the time, especially with Twitter, and probably Tumblr. I don't really follow Tumblr, but I'm sure they talk about it too, because there's a lot of art there. And DeviantArt, any place with art. An artist will always say, you just keep drawing, you just keep making art, you just keep making more and more to get better. Well, people think it's just a natural talent thing. But it's not, it's a skill. And they keep working towards it, they keep getting better at it. And because of that mindset, I try to say skilled more than talented these days, because I see it and understand where they're coming from with that. And also because of a video game. There's a video game no one's heard of, I'm not going to say what it is, but in this game it's basically Groundhog's Day. But in this one, Groundhog's Day, it's a new version of the person every time. It's not just Phil Carson the whole time, it's a new version of them. Every time they die, a new version of them is born. And it's still the same time period. They don't go forward, it's just the same time period. After literally thousands of them die, maybe hundreds of thousands of them die, one of them finally succeeds because they've gotten enough experience from all these deaths to break out of the loop and become this great wizard and stuff. And someone calls them talented and they say, no, it's not talent, it's all skill, because of the sacrifice of literally thousands and thousands of herself died so that she could be strong enough to break the cycle and become this extremely powerful wizard. And so I just remember that right now from a game. So that's one way it hammers in. It's like, it's not talent, it's skill. Because she trained forever to become strong enough to do it. And yeah, it's skill is training, talent is birth. I think that's the best way to put it. And so one way to the top is to be highly skilled or highly talented. That is one way to the top. And we see that with, talent shows all over the place on TV. We see that with YouTube. We see that with Twitch, where people are just really good at something. They're really good at the violin. They're really good at games. They're really good at music. They're just really good at something. That is one way to the top. Just being very, very good at something. That is one way. Another way there is to fill a need, or to just... this is also skill here, is make something that's so good people want to see it, or they want to experience it, is a better way. Make something so good people want to experience it, or to fill a need. And by that is, you could say, like, we just Dragon Ball Z Abridged, the finale just came out for the Cell Saga. That right there is so much skill, what they made there. Very good writing, great editing, just so much going on there, great craftsmanship going on there. But it also... you could also argue it does fill a need as well, and that's a need for entertainment and comedy when it comes to, I suppose, just something that people need to grab onto. So a lot of people are fans of Dragon Ball. I ran into it because of Dragon Ball fandom, and I really enjoyed it. It was just more content for Dragon Ball fans, because a bridge existed in this time after GT and before Super, and even the movies, so that there was just nothing really new to consume. And then a bridge happens, and you got something new to consume, and it was very entertaining. So it's definitely, it filled a need, it really did. And it's also just quite skillful. And it's just really good. They've done amazing. Just seeing them from episode 1 all the way to 60 now, it's amazing how much they've grown and how funny they've gotten. And how good their voices have gotten as well. It's a reason why we do the voice LPs, is to help improve my voices. And it's another reason why we're going to, in time, as we'll work at it as we can, do the Gundam Wing Abridge, is so I can improve my voice and Jinx can improve her editing, and we just make something and have fun with it. That's going to be an amazing thing. That'll be great to do. It should be great as we work on it. Copyright is insane. By the way, the EU stuff with copyright, oh my god, look that stuff up right now, the EU CD. Oh, it is not boding well for anybody right now. Check that out. But that's another thing, is filling a need, or filling a niche. But filling a niche is also kind of like filling a need, in that it's something that people want to see or be entertained by. That's a thing right there. Like, another one would be like game news. Like, game news is like, people don't have a place they go to news regularly. Maybe they have a personality they like to watch for the news. That's a thing they can have. Like Polygon and Kotaku, those are news sites and other places, and they feel that need to know what's going on with games. And there's YouTube channels that do that too, where they're giving you the news as well, but through video form, and that's another way to get the news. That's filling a need right there. Just how to... You can look on YouTube and find maybe how to fix any car. If it's not there, someone's going to make it. That's usually what happens. Because I have a mechanic neighbor, and whenever he has to fix a car he doesn't really know how to fix, he'll look it up on YouTube. That's usually what he does. Because there are some weird things about different vehicles at times. Like, I have a Lexus ES300, and that thing's got some really weird components to it. When I needed his help, he had to look some things up, because it's just a weird kind of setup that the vehicle has. And so, needs get filled. And that's another way to just get attention, is like that. Or just novelty. Novelty is a need. Like the Red Hot Nickel Ball. That is just a novelty. You want to see something ridiculous kind of thing. And that's where that fills it. Or just novelty could be its own thing as well. You could argue that it is its own thing, because did anyone really need to see a Red Hot Nickel Ball? Not necessarily, but it is a form of entertainment, and that fills the need of entertainment, I suppose. If you get down into it, it gets really murky, I suppose. But then there's this new one I didn't think about. And I don't know if it works on its own, but it works very well in tandem with things. And that is narrative. Actually, it does work out on its own, because narrative is, in a sense, kind of character building. It's having a character. And a character can win very well, can go pretty far. Because you have people who are famous for reasons you don't understand at all. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Something happened where they go viral, and then they're able to take that and run with it. And so you could say narrative works with virality, in that a person forges their character, forges their narrative, and uses that to find success. And you can see that very cynically and very positively, mostly cynically, I'm sure. But it's an interesting concept that I'm starting to realize that we see done. And we can use big examples and smaller examples. But a big example you can use is what Logan Paul's been doing. You can definitely use this example. Logan Paul has this whole brand of being a renegade and being this, well, what Logan Paul is. For the outside view, he's very much a douche. For the inside view, he's a bro. He's this person that can be looked up to, because he's talking about being a renegade, being this bigger thing. But then the Suicide Forest happened. And what has Logan Paul been building after the Suicide Forest? He's been building that he's learned his lesson, and he's doing this whole redemption tour. But the redemption tour thing kind of worked out for him, but it got kind of middling, and then it disappeared for the most part, because he went from that and hopped over from that to his KSI fight. I think the KSI fight thing kind of just overrode his plans for the redemption tour, because, well, that was going to make him a crap ton of money, which it did. And they're going to have a second fight, by the way. And if you didn't think that was fixed, you are a fool. Oh my god, you are a fool. Of course there's going to be another fight so they can make more money on that. But that is one example of narrative, is what he's trying to weave, that he's somehow not the bad guy, that he made a mistake and he's learning from it. That is one example of narrative, and people are eating that up. Because Jake Paul did Logan Paul didn't slow down at all. Logan Paul was still gaining a crap ton of subs despite the Suicide Forest mistake, despite being a total pile of crap with that whole thing in Japan. He got a ton of subs, a ton of them. That is amazing that you could do something so horrible and still get a lot out of it, and still get a lot out of it going now, making himself to be the good guy. That is ridiculous. But I feel like we've been bred for narrative. The reason why I feel like that is because millennials and onwards, and maybe even the generations before, actually even the generations before, to an extent, have been bred on narrative, have been bred on like stories, and to now like TV shows and movies. Who doesn't think of things in a narrative way, where like you have whatever situation going on, there's only a couple days left on it, and like this is when a bad thing could happen. And if a bad thing does happen, there is like, of course it does. This is the right time for it to happen. If bad luck happens on Friday the 13th, it just feels like narrative-wise, it was supposed to happen. Not that it's an accident, but it was meant to happen for your character, for your story in life. An accident happening on Friday the 13th was meant to happen. You just see things in a narrative kind of way. You see things like a movie or as a story in a way, because we've been raised on seeing so much story, so much narrative, that we just see ourselves in a narrative. I think that can be argued. And we've been bred for it because we just see so many movies and shows and things. And look at America's Got Talent. Look at, what's it called? American Idol. Everything starts with America. Just look at reality shows. It's not just about how skilled they are, how talented they are. It's also about their backstory. It's about their narrative. It's about who they are. It's about where they started. It's about what they had to overcome. It's not about just how good they are. It's about all these things. Oh my god, here's an example. American Ninja Warrior. Oh my god, American Ninja Warrior. If you want to understand how to overact as an announcer, watch American Ninja Warrior. Those announcers are over the top. They are ridiculous. They are searching for narrative to talk about these different people going on an obstacle course. And when they can't find any narrative, they use as many words in the thesaurus for amazing or awesome or competitive. They act like it's the Super Bowl in every run in American Ninja Warrior. And it is kind of amazing, but also just really cringy at the same time, but to be honest, it really is. But it gets eaten up. People really enjoy that. It's something else, but they could have just been straightforward like how ESPN is. When ESPN's like, oh, here's things going on, they do the things, there you go. But no, they have a narrative to it because it's what, CBS or NBC? There's more of a narrative to it. You see the same thing with football, though, with the NFL, with the bigger college games. They'll talk about where the person came from, or they'll talk about adversity. They'll talk about all these things. They're building a narrative for a character. You actually see the same thing for the Olympics a lot. You see amazing cinematography and just building a narrative around a character for what they had to go through to get here. What they had to go through to get to the position they're at. So you actually care about them winning. You should care about them winning for like USA and just achievement in athletics and everything, but you're there to care about them because they lost their mother, or because their cousin died, or because they had to battle cancer. They had to do something. They had to have some sort of adversity. There's a story. There's a reason why you should be cheering for them. That's a narrative. And we see that all over the place. And that's the realization just having today, and that's why I'm talking about it, is what narrative does, how it enhances, and how we've been trained to see it. How we've been trained to think about it and understand it. In a way, it is, you have to build your own story or someone will build it for you. Because what happens? What happens if you leave something ambiguous, especially with celebrities? People have all these theories, all these conspiracy theories, because people are filling in the narrative for themselves. That is what happens when you leave it ambiguous. And that's the thing. This is something that I've argued with Jinx about, and that is, this is the reason why I respond to so many things aimed at me back in the day, and even now, but not as much, is if you don't tell your story, someone else will tell it for you, and they'll always tell it incorrectly. That's always what's going to happen. And so if you don't fill in the narrative yourself, someone else will. And it's always not going to be something you like. There's always some conspiracy theory. There's always something where it's just like, oh, they're probably just... To be honest, you see this all the time. You might be guilty of yourself. When you see someone with Patreon money, you have all these theories probably of just them not using it for whatever good things. You think of them using it for whatever nefarious things. Or you just think they're just blowing all the money or something like that. Because you can't fathom where all that money goes. You can't fathom what someone can do with a certain amount of money. Take, for example, James Sterling. I don't know where he's at right now on Patreon, but there was a point when he was hitting like 6,000, 7,000 a month on Patreon. And it becomes a theory of like, well, how much of that money can go here? How much of the money can go there? And then he's got all this extra money. And then just people just filling in the blanks what they think he's going to do with all that money. You can argue the same thing with, I suppose, with YouTube. A thing that people just don't understand is how many people actually are successful on YouTube. How small that number really is. It's a very tiny percentage, of course. And how many of them make however much money. And there's a lot of people who have just tons of views, but they don't make a lot of money. They don't make that much money. They make enough to survive. They make enough for barely minimum wage. And only a very, very tiny amount make a crap ton of money where they can just do whatever they want. Not everyone's Logan Paul, not everyone's Lyric. That is a very small percentage. That is winning the lottery in a sense, except they did it through some sort of skill of marketing or just whatever they're doing, like being really good at a game or being really good at making a story, really good at editing or branding themselves, just being really good at something. That's what they're doing, and that's a lottery kind of win right there. It's basically, they're all Tom Brady's. Like, they're all Tom Brady's, Brett Favre, if you want to go for a football one. Brett Favre, Ronaldo's, just all those different things. They're the ones, they're the stars. There can only be so many stars, of course. And there's a lot of smaller people who are making enough to just get by. When it comes to Twitch, what were the numbers? I think the numbers was like 50 or 80,000 people on there make money on there, and they make enough to just get by on they get enough to just be considered minimum wage. And there's a lot more than that number, of course, on Twitch. Same thing goes for YouTube. A very small percentage of YouTube is able to get by on life through YouTube money alone. While most people, it's like a hobby. Like for us example, of course it's a hobby. Another thing is how we've been introducing narrative. There was LiveJournal, there was MySpace, and then Facebook, and then, of course, Twitter and Instagram and Snap. Not really Snapchat necessarily. Well, Snapchat kind of because it has stories. And all these things. We've been sharing ourselves more and more and more over the years. And the internet really allowed ourselves to expand our narrative so far. It really did. And I don't know what there was before LiveJournal. I think it was just like forums and people just posting about their stuff to each other. I feel like LiveJournal was one of the first big ones. Those of you who don't know what a LiveJournal is, oh my god. LiveJournal is basically Twitter in long form, but you're only talking about yourself. That's the only thing you're doing. And then I think people could comment on your LiveJournals. I think they could. I can't remember. It's been so long. Is LiveJournal even alive anymore? Is MySpace still around? Like, Justin Timberlake owns that, right? Still? I don't know. But we have been forming our narratives into the public for decades now. To the point it's kind of normal, and it is weird to a lot of us, while also normal at the same time, where we share so much, and maybe too much. By the way, really quick tangent, I have Korean friends, and they were telling me about Korean Twitter, and how innocent it is, because Korean Twitter will talk about their day a little bit. They'll talk about, well, they had like fish or something for breakfast, and then they'll apologize saying, oh, I shouldn't be sharing what's going on in my life right now, I'm sorry. And it keeps happening in Korean Twitter right now. I'm like, that is precious. That is so sweet and innocent that they feel like just sharing what they had, what they were eating, is too much information. It's so precious. While you got over here in American or just Western Twitter, where we're sharing a way too much, and ain't nothing TMI anymore, is it? Oh, plenty of things TMI for me. I don't need to know bowel movements. I really don't, but it still gets shared, and I'm like, dude, I don't need to know that. But it happens. And so, what is the narrative of Scarf? What is the narrative I'm playing with? Like, business wise, what is our narrative here? What is the character we're building? And the realization is we're all over the damn place. We are all over the damn place when it comes to our narrative. Because it's a very mixed bag, it's a very mixed signal, it's very mixed everything, and even what our way of trying to get to the top is mixed as well. We should always bring it back to ourselves, of course. Not narcissistically, but to learn. That's where it should be. To grow. We should always bring it back to ourselves so we can grow, not so that we can just, shrink by not improving. Shrink by reinforcing what we think of things instead of, trying to change and evolve. If that made any sense what I just said. Probably did not, my bad. But how can we bring this full circle? Back to Scarf. What is the narrative we have here? Thinking about it really. The narrative, I think, and you can say what you think in the comments as well if you got this far. What is the narrative? I think the narrative has been, because I keep hammering it in, Scarf is a guy who wants people to be happy, who wants people to have fun, because that's the sign out of every video, is that's what's all about, having fun. Since like almost the first video, I don't think it was the first video, but somewhere early, it's always been, thanks for coming by, see you next time. And before that, I have fun, hope you have fun watching, that part. Because that's what's all about, having fun. Like, that has been there since maybe month 1. I can't remember how early it was. Someone could check, because I'm not gonna. But it's been a long time. And that the narrative is, I'm a guy who cares about you having fun. I'm a guy who cares about fun. That's what I care about. But the underlying narrative to that is, where does that come from? What is the hurt that comes from? And you can argue, and only those who see the vlog know this, of course, is I hit a bottom point where I tried to commit suicide. And you know that from the vlogs, because I've said this a couple times over the years. And so that was my low point. And from there, went up. And of course, we have prevented 7 suicides. That is part of the narrative as well. We don't shove that in people's faces, though it's argued that you should shove every good thing you do in people's faces. But I think we hurt ourselves because we don't want to do that. But also, it's rude to kind of like, to utilize the fact that people aren't dead to push yourself forward. I feel like it's pretty rude. Also, going back on Logan Paul, that's so rude, him doing what he's done to Japan and all that in the Suicide Force. But I think because we have our own morality of things and how we don't shove things, it's why we're not as spread out. But I'm okay with that because, oh my god, that's just very icky. But that's the narrative, is because I'm someone who almost killed myself, I care very much about preventing that. I care very much about people's mental health and well-being, to the point that we've been able to stop 7. Though we weren't trying to do that in the first place, though. We've never tried to do that. We've just tried to be something where that is possible, I suppose, is the way to put it. But the narrative is Scarf, who attempted and failed, and that's important to him, has thankfully been able to prevent 7. That's the narrative. But I do wonder deeper down, where does the positivity come from? Where does it really come from? Because I wonder about that self as far as my human nature. Because, well, I can argue where I think it comes from, but some of you really liked Angry Scarf. Some of you really loved Angry Scarf. And most of Angry Scarf is in the past at this point, because that was very much the Smite days with my outrage over that. And we could have became an Angry Joe kind of channel. We could have became a news channel that just raged at really stupid things. And there's enough fuel for that. There is always something dumb to rage about in the gaming news community. In the gaming community, I mean. When it comes to the news, there's always something really dumb. You can complain about EA all the time, you can complain about Ubisoft all the time, you can complain about certain other things, though. Someone's doing something icky. Like, Guild Wars 2, that whole thing, that was very bad. That could have gotten a lot of rage out of me. That could have gotten a lot of views and stuff with that, with Rage Scarf. Where did that come from? That comes from my father. I know it does, because my dad's a very angry, ragey person, and I know I got it from him. But what I don't know is, where did I get my hopefulness? Where did I get my positivity? And I think it, going full circle some more, it comes from TV and movie and all that stuff. It comes from those stories of adversity where things... This is the story you keep telling, the story of adversity, where things are down, but they can go up. I think that's what it is. But it's like, just seeing, we've had superheroes for so long, in cartoons, in comics, and that's where I saw things. And that's probably why I've always had a faith, and a belief, and a positivity, because the good guys somehow always win. We've had that for a very long time. That's probably why I hate horror movies so much. Because a good horror movie, the bad guys always win. That's a good horror movie. And that's why I hate horror movies. Because the good guys don't win in those. They don't. If a good guy wins in that, it's usually not a very good story. Because horror is meant to make you uncomfortable, not make you comfortable. And the good guy winning is not making you uncomfortable. And so I think it straight up comes from TV and movies and all that, where the hero just wins. The hero overcomes adversity. I think that's where my hope comes from, is from fiction. It doesn't come from real life, it comes from fiction. That's interesting, I think. But I think a lot of our motivations and a lot of what puts us down does come from fiction. A lot does come from real life as well, but a lot also comes from fiction. I think a lot of our pain comes from fiction, from reality for sure, and a lot of our uplifting comes from fiction and fictionalized reality. Again, with the narratives, where we just make this whole narrative about how great something is, or we retell the past more positively. We don't really learn from our past because the past keeps getting made nicer. We're hitting 30 minutes, so I'll stop right now. But when I was in elementary school, the story of Christopher Columbus was he was friends with the Native Americans. He was their buddy. It was nice times when he came over and everything. That's what I was taught. That is a rewrite of history. Anyone remember Schoolhouse Rock? This might be too old. Schoolhouse Rock had a song called Elbow Room, where America needed a little more elbow room, which is how we did Manifest Destiny. And the idea is we just pushed out the Native Americans. We didn't murder them all, we just pushed them out. We didn't push them out by pushing them out, we pushed them out by murdering them. But that's not what the narrative was. That's not what the story being told to kids is. We put on the kiddie gloves, so to speak. Literally. So to speak, literally. What the hell? But it's what we do. Narrative. Narrative. Narrative is what we do. Narrative fuels so much in our lives, whether we realize it or not. And this has been my TED Talk. So that right there is the vlog, everybody. I've been doing such a good job of doing short vlogs, and now I'm doing them long again. Jinx is gonna kill me again. Like, oof. But I think it was an interesting talk. I really do. I think it was an interesting vlog. And I guess that's the niche I fill. Interesting vlog. So that right there is the vlog. I had fun talking. Hope you have fun watching and listening. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.